John Roberts, principal oboist at the tender age of
23.
23. Now, is that quite unusual?
Not particularly, I don't think. I think the trend since I've been in London studying and playing is for orchestras to employ younger people. I think all the orchestras have their eye on the conservatoires, and they're looking for young people up and coming, to sort of rejuvenate the orchestras, I suppose.
Now, was the oboe your first instrument of choice?
I did play the violin for a short and quite unsuccessful time as a child, and I sort of decided to wrap that up. And there was a very inspirational oboe teacher in my local area in Glasgow who just sort of had me hooked by his personality mainly, but also at the time he was the cor anglais player in the RSNO, and I often went to the concerts there as a child, and he really sort of inspired me as a person and a musician. So I was really excited to take up the oboe.
So it's quite a shift, isn't it, to go from a violin to an oboe? I guess the most important thing for you was the fact that you were going to get into music. But was it a big change to make?
It was. It was obviously like the instruments, they're very removed from each other in terms of how they work, but actually their role is very much a melody instrument, and I suppose that's what I was into. And I suppose I was just happy to be playing music as a child. I was just really into it, always have been.
And that was at school you started, but then did you get into an orchestra quite quickly?
I started doing youth orchestras after sort of mastering the basics, the very, very basics. And I there was lots on offer in Scotland. So I started off in the National Children's Orchestra of Scotland, which went up to the age of 14, and met loads of inspirational friends, I suppose, who really sort of made me want to keep going. Because at school, it was a very unusual thing to be into music and to play an instrument, and I didn't really feel like anyone sort of got it, and it didn't seem like something that you could want to do for your life. But when I went to do these youth orchestras, I sort of suddenly found myself surrounded by like-minded people, and thought, hey, this is something that people really like to do. I'm not alone.
And did this also then lead on to going to a conservatoire?
Eventually, yes. So by the time I'd done 6 years at high school and sort of, I suppose, 6 years of oboe lessons and youth orchestras, after a bit of dithering, I was quite set that I wanted to go on and study music. So I did auditions at pretty much everywhere I go. And I chose the Royal College of Music in London. Had several consultation lessons and decided to study with Christopher Cowie, who's a massive idol of mine in the Philharmonic Orchestra.
And you went then straight on to the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. Was that a natural progression?
It was a very orchestral-based training that I got. So it's all. I felt like everyone there that was aiming to be in an orchestra. There's some people who want to go and do their own thing, do chamber music, but that's the mainstream thing that people want to do. And after a few years there, I started to get on the audition circuit, start trying for jobs sort of with various levels of success. But I started in that way. I started picking up bits of freelance work while I was studying. So sort of switching between the two, which became quite difficult in terms of what to prioritise, whether to prioritise learning fully in an institution or sort of plunging myself in the deep end, going into a professional orchestra, and getting a roasting.
Well, has it been an easy ride? You've achieved so much already. Do you have a sense of that?
I certainly feel like I've got a long way to go as a player, and that's the main thing. I think I've been very lucky to achieve what I have, and I'm in a very nice position where I can play in the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. I'm learning new things every day, but as I feel as a player, it's only the beginning, really.
have there been highlights so far? Because the RPO works with some of the greatest conductors in the world, so I guess you're coming into contact with some of them.
Absolutely, I mean, the two main conductors that the orchestra have a relationship, who are Charles Dutoit and Pinkas Zukerman, have both been, in their own way, a complete inspiration. I think the orchestra's very lucky to have those two sort of mentors. So we're working with Zukerman at the moment, and I just find we're doing lots of sort of classical and early romantic repertoire, and I just find his approach to that sort of thing resonates so much with how I feel about it, and also sort of makes me consider new ways of doing it.
I think you're still at the point where you could almost define a perfect moment, where you could say, well, what's the perfect piece of music that you want to play in the perfect place with the perfect conductor?
Well, I mean, the trouble is, if it's that perfect, if it's my favourite conductor, my favourite piece of music, favourite venue, then the pressure's too much, and I'll just get worried about it. But I mean, so far in my time here, both the most terrifying and the most rewarding thing has been doing the complete ballet of Daphnis and Chloe with Dutoit, and we did it in several places. We did it in the Festival Hall in London Festival, which was probably the most terrifying because it's the home crowd. It was my first concert with the orchestra in that hall as a member, and it's just an extraordinarily challenging work to play, and had to work very hard. But ultimately, yeah, once I was sitting there, you sort of feel like once you've put all the work in and you're sitting there and it's the performance, and you've already won before it's even started. But yes, I was certainly quite nervous.
Now we've taken you away from your colleagues, because I think you're supposed to be rehearsing at the moment, so we're really going to have to get you back there. But John Roberts, thank you very much for taking the time to speak.
Well, thank you. Thank you.